Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, the Bald Explorer, and I've just gone through a gate. I'm out, you can probably see from my glasses, on a wet, windy morning, on a walk which is another of those old faithful walks. I'm just taking a little stroll just to get out on a Sunday. It's Sunday today, and the weather is a little miserable. You can see it's behind me, it's a little misty, foggy, murky, and it doesn't look very promising, but sometimes you've just got to get out and get a little bit of fresh air, and that's what I'm trying to do today. And I have to apologise, A, for the wind that might be buffering on the microphone, and B, for the rain that is cascading on the lens. It's also drenching my face and hands, but don't let that worry you too much. We've got some crops in the field next to me, and I can barely see anything. Anyway, one of the reasons for coming out today on this old route here, I should tell you where I am, of course, sorry. I'm just east of Cissbury Ring. Steyning Bowl is that way, on the road that cuts through from Worthing to Steyning in West Sussex. And for those of you who don't live in the area, obviously none of that means anything, but I'm on the South Downs, and it's been raining as I've said, but luckily it's not wet and boggy. That's always an advantage. So I'm on this route here, which isn't the South Downs way, I don't think. It takes me up to Cissbury if I get that far. I probably won't because of the wind and the buff and the cold, but I just wanted to get out to fill one's lungs. And I think it's important sometimes to get out and make an effort when the weather is just a bit bleak, because facing the elements as a human being and conquering them and mastering them, it is actually good for you. Well, I think it is, because when you get home, there's so much of a lovely feeling to come in, put your boots by the fire to dry them out, have a cup of coffee or a nice mug of tea and a biscuit. I suppose it's so English, isn't it? It may well be what people do all over the world, so perhaps I can't claim an English trait on that one. Perhaps the eccentric part is just going for walks anyway. And I think in this day and age, that's a thing that 150 years ago, I think people weren't walking just for pleasure. I think in the 1930s, actually, there was quite a resurgence. I don't know if resurgence is the right word. There was quite a promotion, I suppose, of people getting out and going for walks and reclaiming the countryside. We've got a crop field here, which I just wanted to have a poke at, because as you can see, this crop, there is no margins at all. You may remember recently I did an interview with Lee Dallin, a farmer. Now, he puts a nice bit of margin for wildlife. There's nothing here, but I suppose you could argue that this area is the margin next to the footpath. So that's not too bad then, I guess. I don't want to turn into the farm police looking at margins and things like that. I'm just interested. The more you read and the more you learn about the landscape and about the process of farming and what happens today, the more you just question little things and go, oh, that's interesting. I wonder why they do such and such. Or at least that's how I'm finding it. I think the rain has stopped for a moment. Either that or I've been slightly sheltered. It's just coming down a hill here. Sometimes the chalk can be quite slippery when it's wet. Slippery when wet, as they say. I've got some sheep ahead of me and some cattle. But fortunately, they are not on the path. Just in this large field here. Some of these fields do look rather huge. We know that sheep, of course, and the cattle are owned by the farmers, obviously. It goes without saying. Here's a thought that's often popped into my head, and maybe somebody can help me with this. Who owns the wildlife? Who owns the birds when they land on the field? Who owns the squirrels, the rabbits, the ducks? There's a pond just down there, you probably can't see them, but there's ducks. Who owns those? The wildlife. Who owns the wild plants and the flowers? I get that landowners own the land, but if you've got visiting, I mean, nobody owns me other than myself. And if I'm walking on a land that I shouldn't be, I can be told to go. But I wonder who owns the wildlife. I mean, in the old days, I don't know whether people still poach, but people would creep on the land and they would perhaps poach for rabbits. Well, I can understand if you've got a pheasant crop that you've got there for a shoot. I can understand that they would be owned because they're being fed and looked after by the farmer or whoever it is, the landowner, and the gamekeeper is looking after the game, so that's clearly and obvious. But the rabbits that just happen to live there, who owns those? Just a thought. This is a little bit of what you might call waste ground, but it's a haven for wildlife, and it's good to see it's actually being maintained. Although this bit has been mown here, you've got this area with brambles. Some of these, which I think these are invasive, I don't know what they are, and then what looks like hazel, I think, or is that lime? Might be a little lime tree in there, something growing in there that's in a plastic thing, so it's obviously been planted. And then all sorts of other alder in there. It's great to see, just allowed to grow on the downs. And that must be a fantastic habitat for all sorts of birds and mammals. Oh, it is brightening up. How marvellous is that? There we are, look, there's another one here. Another one in there, which is great. It is brightening up. Now I feel a bit ridiculous in this coat. It's a Sunday, as I said before, and so people will be out walking, which is fantastic to see, and it's lovely to see that. But I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, that since the lockdown that we've been in, and perhaps it's because there are more people furloughed, I don't know, but there just seems an inordinate amount of people who have discovered the landscape. It is good to see, and I shouldn't moan or anything like that, and I don't, of course, but when I'm out filming, of course, you're trying to film when there's nobody about. So A, you don't look like a prune holding a camera talking to nobody, or you're trying to get a shot to show off the landscape and then there's somebody in a brightly coloured lycra or something, or a cyclist comes trundling by. But anyway, that's a neither here nor there thing. Just looking at the blackberries. Well, they're not quite yet blackberries, but at the brambles here, hedgerow of brambles with the lovely pink blossom on them, because that's just changing, and some hawthorn here. It was only weeks ago, it seems, during the lockdown, that we had that wonderful white spread of what they call May, or the hawthorn blossom. And there a little bit of elder, more elder here. I think one of the things, when you start to look at the landscape in a bit more detail and you start thinking about it, I've been somewhat critical in my videos recently about the monoculture and that, and then seeing Lee. I suppose I'm at the moment I'm quite contemplative, if I can put it that way. I'm just more observant now to look at what the state of the landscape is at the moment today, and I'm fascinated what we've done to it before by digging up, taking out the hedgerows and all of that, and the fact that now we are putting some of them back, not all of them. I don't think we'll go back. I don't think we'll ever go back, sadly, to that beautiful higgledy-piggledy small field farming. That's it for this little walk. I've got up to the hill. I'm not going to climb up the hill today because I'm feeling too warm in this coat. I'm going to stroll back, and then I've got other things to do, not least sort out my internet, which seems to have gone down for some reason, so I need to get on to my provider about that. But anyway, that's not your problem. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this rather sort of lackadaisical walk, then do give me a thumbs up, much appreciated, and leave a comment if you so wish. I shall continue my adventures from tomorrow, of course, and there'll be another video. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye for now. Bye bye.